Welcome to the Washington Heights Church podcast. We're so glad you're here. Each week, we bring you the latest Sunday message filled with God's Word to help strengthen your faith and deepen your walk with Christ. Whether you're tuning in from home, your commute, or anywhere in between, we're thrilled to have you join our community. So, grab a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's get started.
Well, let me extend my welcome to you today as well. Thanks for being with us. My name is Mike. I'm one of the pastors here as well, and excited to bring today's message to you. So we've been in this series of this season of Love Gives, and this is the third week of it. And the first couple weeks were Love Gives Hope, and then it was Love Gives Joy. And today we're talking about how love gives peace. And oftentimes, I think there's a misunderstanding with the concept of peace. You know, we seek to have peace in our lives, but I think that understanding of peace in our lives is also misconstrued with the idea of comfort in our lives. And we're creatures of habit, creatures of comfort. We like to find those things that make us feel good, nice and warm and tingly inside. But comfort doesn't always mean peace. But we seek after these things that make us comfortable, right? We seek after the things that can be nice and fluffy and soft landing and that picture I could pass out right now and sleep for hours. And if you have any of these items, I'm not judging you. They're super comfy. Now, I will say, I think this image is a little bit of false advertisement because that man is a liar. I can guarantee you, if I were sitting on that couch wearing that, what is it called, a comfy or a snuggie or whatever you want to call it, with all of my family also wearing one of those on a cloth couch with them on top of me, that man is dripping in sweat right now. He is absolutely soaked. One of the best gifts I've ever given my wife, she loves blankets, and one of the best gifts I've ever given to her is this heated blanket. But you know how like when you sit on the couch and you want to wear a blanket, and you put the blanket over and you got to do the whole leg kick thing to get it underneath? You know, you kick it up fast enough and get your legs down so that it goes underneath your feet so your feet are wrapped up. This one has like a built-in pocket for your feet. And it's a heated blanket, but you can control the temperature. My wife, I love her. She cranks this thing up to like 110 degrees. And she's sitting under this blanket and she's like, just dripping in sweat. But then her whole body's like out of whack because she'll take the blanket off and she's freezing. And the house is like 72 degrees. And she's like, it's freezing in here. I'm like, it's a little actually too hot in here, but that's fine. We haven't had very many discussions about it. I love her so much, but I'm like, if you're gonna wear that blanket, there's gotta be a barrier between us. It cannot touch me. You can't lean up on me. I'm going to push you away or sit in another chair. Comfort though, and you know, if you have one of these, more power to you. It looks super comfy. It's a pillow that has like a hole in it, so you can like wrap, whatever. You know, we're all about the memory foam and finding that perfect mattress with the memory foam layer on top and spending $10,000 on the perfect mattress to get the perfect amount of sleep so that we can be comfortable. I mean, the research, now we do have a purple mattress. That's pretty comfy. I'm just saying. This one is my favorite though. I saw this and I'm like, what even am I looking at? This is a Lavender Zen memory foam aromatherapy cooling pillow. We've gone too far. But we like to be comfortable. We misunderstand the idea of peace, though, with being comfortable. We want and desire peace in our lives, peace in our hearts for the anxiety and the worries and the stress to go away. And so in search of those things, we depend on our home, on our car, on our finances, on those things that make us feel warm and fuzzy and comfortable. But oftentimes those things don't bring peace. Now the irony is if you flip it around, you can have peace without comfort. And today's lesson, we're going to be looking at a young woman asked a very uncomfortable task in her life, and yet peace is found through it and the task assigned her. We're going to be talking about Mary in this nativity story. Check this out. In the sixth month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, Elizabeth was her cousin who God came to, Gabriel, the angel, came to and said, you're going to be made pregnant by your husband, Zechariah. They've been barren. They're older in age, and they're going to give birth to a man named John who will go before Jesus and make the people ready to receive this young man, Jesus. So God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The virgin's name was Mary. There's a couple really, really important things to understand about this and what Luke is trying to write in this book that kind of helps set up the context and understanding of the significance of what's happening here. The fact that he has to describe Nazareth as a town in Galilee means that Nazareth wasn't a very well-known town. It was a kind of a no man's land. It wasn't a commonplace. It wasn't a booming town that lots of people knew about. He has to describe it as, this is a town over in this region, just so you kind of have context on where this town is, because it was so insignificant. So God is using an insignificant town and a young, insignificant girl to bring one of the most powerful forces we've ever known to life. And he mentions twice that Mary is a virgin. She's pledged to be married. And now in this day and age, when you were pledged to be married, it was the same binding contract as a marriage contract. You were essentially married. At this point, though, while they're pledged, they just didn't live together. But the rules of marriage still applied. So if there was adultery or something committed against the marriage, then Joseph could have every right to divorce Mary. But they just weren't living together yet. So here's what happens. The angel went to her and said, "Greetings, you who are highly favored, the Lord is with you." Mary was greatly troubled at his words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. Now, I've heard and read this story. We go through this nativity story every year as we talk about Christ coming and all that kind of stuff. And I've heard this story a million times, but diving in and studying it, it was interesting to me that the way that Luke wrote this was that Mary wasn't necessarily greatly troubled at the fact that there's an angel standing in front of her. She was greatly troubled at his words. And why? All he said was, "Greetings, you who are highly favored. The Lord is with you." Why would she be troubled at a greeting like that? Because that was a greeting of royalty. This angel, Gabriel, who's God's messenger, it's an angel standing in front of her, so there's got to be a little bit of, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? But on top of that, she's going, wait. How did you just address me? Who am I? I'm this little insignificant girl in an insignificant town. Why are you addressing me like royalty? On top of being a woman, it was rare that a man would just walk up and start a conversation with a woman that he didn't know, let alone being married or betrothed to be married. She was insignificant. There wasn't a big deal. This wasn't a big deal town. And so this moment, she's troubled by his words and what is happening. On top of the fact that the common greeting people would say to each other would be, "May the Lord be with you." It was a wish. May the Lord be with you. But here Gabriel is saying an emphatical statement, the Lord is with you. You who are highly favored. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God." So why do not be afraid? Obviously, there's an angel standing in front of her. That's terrifying enough as it is. But this being troubled with how she's being addressed and not quite understanding it, why? Because she had found favor with God. Well, what does that mean? In fact, the angel says it twice, right? She was highly favored and then has found favor with God. So the fact that this angel is calling her favored means something significant. And it's important to know that word favor can also be juxtaposed, it can be replaced with grace. You who have found grace from God, unmerited, undeserved grace. You know, it's interesting that phrase, one who has found favor with God, is found in only one other place in the Bible. And that's when Paul is writing this letter to the church of Ephesus, the book of Ephesians. Ephesians 1:6, he uses this same phrase. It's a Greek word, haritao. And it means one who has found favor with God. So in the same context that this angel Gabriel is telling Mary, this insignificant little girl who has found grace, unmerited, undeserved grace from God, can also be applied to you and I, because that's what Paul says. You who have found favor with God by an undeserved, unmerited amount of grace. And grace removes fear. So here she is, standing before this angel who has just told her, you're highly favored. You've been shown unmerited, undeserved grace from God. Okay, but so what you doing here? And here's what he says. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus, and he will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end. Oh, that's all. Great. And I'm trying to picture in this moment, like breaking this story down, right? We've heard this story, if you've been around church at all, and maybe come to the nativity stories and the nativity scenes and heard the Christmas messages, you've heard this story before, and so it can kind of become a little white noise, right? You can kind of just glance over it, and yeah, that's the story. The angel came to Mary, yada, yada, she's going to be praying to the Son of God and all that stuff. The Son of God. What's running through her head? And I wonder if images like this, like I have to walk around my town, my family. People are going to see that I'm pregnant, but I'm still supposed to be a virgin. I'm not supposed to even be with my husband yet for another year. That's terrifying. And the anxiety and the overwhelmingness of what this means. What will people think? But the interesting thing that how Mary responds, it wasn't, what about me? It wasn't, what are people going to think? It wasn't even like, that's impossible. She asks a simple question. Like, okay, I get this, but how will this be? Like, walk me through the logistics here, because I'm a virgin. So, there needs a thing to happen for that. I get it, God. I'm at your disposal here, but help me process this, because Now, if you read a few verses before, when the angel comes to Zechariah, there's a different story that happens. The angel comes to Zechariah, and he explains what's going to happen, and Zechariah responds with, well, how can I know? Right? Mary says, how will this be? Like, I get it, but how's it going to happen? Like, help me understand. Give me clarity. Versus Zechariah, who says, how can I be sure of this? Like, this is impossible. There's no way this can happen. And the result of that, the result of his doubt, was the angel said, fine. Since you've doubted me, you're going to be a mute for the next 9 months, the duration of your wife's pregnancy. So while Mary is asking, how will this work? Like, I get it, God, but help me understand. Versus Zechariah, who doubted, saying, how will I know? How will I know that this is really going to happen? And so God made him a mute, which, if we're being honest, was probably a favor for Elizabeth. She's like, thank Jesus. And I didn't have to listen to the, hey, Zach, I'm going to need some peanut butter and pickle stat. Well, yeah, that's because you doubted God, isn't it? Yeah. That's what you, sorry. So the angel answered her. Here's how it's going to work. The Holy Spirit will come on you. The power of the Most High will overshadow you. And so the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Just for a moment, can you try and grasp what's being said to her? And understanding, she's anywhere between the age of 12 to 14, maybe 15 years old. I've got a 14-year-old daughter. I would love to see her reaction to something like this, like, ha. This doesn't say that anyone's going to be born. The Holy One will be born from your womb. Yes, I know that you're a virgin, and you don't quite grasp how this is going to work. But I'm God, and the power of the Holy Spirit is going to come out and overshadow your life and make this possible. There's another occurrence where this idea of the Holy Spirit overshadowing is written about. And it's back in the Old Testament. God asks a man named Moses to go into Egypt and to free the Israelites who have been captives, who have been under slavery under the Egyptians for the last 400 years. And so Moses goes and he speaks with Pharaoh. And if you've read the story, you know there's the 10 plagues and the whole deal. In the end, Pharaoh says, "Take my people and go." And so Moses leads the people out of Egypt into the wilderness. And while they're in the wilderness, God comes to Moses and he says, I want to dwell with you, my people. But in order to do that, I want you to build me a tent, a tabernacle. And so God gives him these ridiculous specs down to the very last detail. And they build this tent. And once the tent was finished, this is what it says in the book of Exodus. It says, "Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because the cloud had settled on it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle." His presence was there. Now, this same exact concept of the Holy Spirit coming and overshadowing and his cloud coming down around his people is the exact same thing that Gabriel's telling this young 14-year-old virgin. God is going to overshadow. He overshadowed the tabernacle and infused it with his presence and glory. God is now choosing to infuse, materialize, and localize himself into a particular time and space in all of his splendor and glory in the womb of a young virgin named Mary. Just process that for a second. All of who God is, his power, his majesty, being infused into the womb of this little 14-year-old girl. Gabriel goes on to say, "Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age. And she who is said to be unable to conceive is in her 6th month, for no word from God will ever fail." And it's right in this moment, right now, where Mary has a choice. She has to choose. I can choose to surrender my will and my control over my life and to trust God's will and God's plan and pray and hope and have faith that maybe, just maybe, he knows a little bit more than I do about what's good for my life. Or I can choose my pride, dictated by my fear, dictated by the idea that this may just be too uncomfortable to have to deal with the rumors and the gossip and the what people are going to say and the looks that are going to be given her way and what's Joseph going to do. In fact, back in the book of Matthew, it says that when Joseph learned of this, he was ready to divorce her. But Gabriel came to him as well and said, no. This is from God. Believe, trust. So what's her choice? What's she going to do? I can either lean forward in my faith that might mean a little bit of uncomfortableness in my life, but trusting that God's will is bigger and greater, and that maybe when I do that, there's peace to be found there. Or I can choose my pride, my fear, my comfortability. And Mary's response is absolutely beautiful. I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled. It's not, okay, well, what's my husband going to think? What are the people in the town going to think? This was a statement of absolute and total surrender to God. Is this a place that you have reached in your life where you're willing maybe to forego a little bit of comfortability to say, God, I'm here to absolutely, totally, and completely surrender my life and my will over to what you would have me do, even if that means maybe a little bit of uncomfortability. And it's funny, she says, I'm the Lord's servant. That word servant, it can be replaced with the word slave. I'm the Lord's slave. I am subject to whatever he wants of me. Total and complete submission. There's a biblical scholar, James Edwards, who wrote this. In the ancient world, slavery signified total belonging and submission. Slave accurately represents Mary's will, for despite her perplexity, she chooses to comply with grace. Let God's will be done. Her response is perhaps the best definition of faith in the Bible, the desire for God's word to become reality in our lives. What is your desire? Is it for God's will and God's plan to reign and rule and be submissive to that, to completely surrender to that? Or to choose comfortability, to choose pride, to choose that fear and to let that fear reign and control your decisions? And she's surrendering to God's will. She's not just surrendering to being pregnant, to this idea, notion of being made pregnant, but she's surrendering to God's will, whatever may come, whatever that looks like, your will be done. May your word to me be fulfilled. You know, and the interesting thing is that this son that she's going to carry in her virgin womb, the Holy One, this son that she's going to give birth to 33 years later, when he's preparing himself to be tortured and brutalized and hung on a cross for every single one of us, said the exact same thing. He says, Father, if you're willing, take this from me. I don't want to do this, but it's not up to me. Not my will. Not my comfortability. Your will be done. Having faith in God's will means submitting, like a slave, to be fully owned in surrender to him and his plan. The result is finding a peace, even in turbulence. Even if that surrendering to his will causes a little bit of discomfort and turbulence in your life, it's finding a peace, even in turbulence, that goes beyond anything we could ever give ourselves. His word says that there is a peace when we seek after God that passes all of our understanding. It doesn't make sense, and yet we can find a peace in our lives even when our situation is uncomfortable. Even when we're willing to sacrifice and surrender. Peace does not equal comfort. And that's something that we've got to understand. Jesus has never once promised comfortable. He has promised comfort. Blessed are those who are mourning, for they shall be comforted. But he doesn't say they shall be comfortable. a state of being in perpetual comfort. You know how I know this? Because he said it. I have told you these things so that in me, Jesus, you may have peace. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times and in every way. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Is it your peace? It's his. He will give it to you when you decide to choose to surrender to his will. So if grace, when we embrace this gift of unmerited, undeserved grace, when we embrace this gift over our lives, and that removes fear by following his will in faith, the result is peace in our lives. And if we're creatures of comfort, if that's the one thing we're seeking and striving after, why wouldn't we? Wouldn't it be worth maybe a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of sacrifice to have a peace that rests over your life, that doesn't make sense, that goes beyond all of our understanding? That in the midst of your anxiety and worries, there's peace. That in the midst of your depression and struggle, there's peace. That in the midst of your financial insecurities, or things are up in the air, or marital struggles, or family issues, there's a peace that rests. Paul prayed a prayer for the Colossians, and it was a prayer to know God's will. Because in knowing God's will, you'll discover and find out that you and I have been qualified, proved well enough to have his grace. This is what he says. Check this out. In Colossians 1, he says, we continually ask God to fill you with the knowledge of his will through all the wisdom and understanding that the Spirit gives, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened with all the power according to his glorious might, so that you may have great endurance and patience, and giving joyful thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of his holy people in the kingdom of light. For he has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. You and I, when we place our faith in Jesus and surrender ourselves to his will, have now been qualified, earned enough. We have been proven worthy, right? If you think about the Olympics that we get to see every couple years, and the qualifications, the time trials, the endurance that these people have to prove in order to even make it that far, are strenuous. They're crazy hard. They're the top of the top, the elite. And in that same context, God looks at all of us and says, because of your faith in me, you are now qualified to share in this inheritance that I have for you. And what's this inheritance? It is love and mercy and grace for eternity in a relationship with God the Father through Jesus. We are qualified because of grace based on our faith. Let me ask you a question. Are you willing? Are you willing to surrender your comfort to find the peace of Christ? And for each and every one of you, that's going to mean something different, what God is calling you to do and asking of you in your life. But maybe, just maybe, even in this season of this love leaves a legacy, maybe he's calling you to sacrificially give up so that the world may know, so that more people may come to know this incredible gift of who our Jesus is. And for a lot of us, our finances, our money is a comfort blanket. That's the thing I don't want to let go of that. That makes me feel good. I'm comforted by the things that I can buy. But if that's his will for your life, if he's asking that of you, are you willing to surrender and sacrifice that? Our church is going through transformation. We are growing. We are bursting at the seams, and we want to make room for more people. And we're asking people to surrender, to sacrifice. And I'm not here to beg for your money. That's between you and God. But I know God's will for this church is for growth, making an impact so that the world may know. Right to the ends of the earth is what God has called us to do, to spread the word of his good news, his gospel. And maybe, just maybe, that means a little bit of uncomfortability. But in doing so, you will find peace. You know how I know that's true? Because Mary surrendered to God's will to go through probably one of the most uncomfortable things a little 14-year-old girl could do. And you know what her response is? She went and visited her cousin Elizabeth, and here's what Mary had to say. She didn't say, I can't believe I got to go through this. This is going to be the worst thing in my life. What are people going to think? No, she says, my soul glorifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for he has been mindful of the humble state of his servant. From now on, all generations will call me blessed, for the mighty one has done great things for me. Holy is his name. Are you willing to say that in the midst of surrender and submission? In the midst of maybe a little bit of uncomfortability, where peace can be found? Holy is his name. He has done great things for me. Would you bow your heads with me? God, what a gift it is to be able to talk about this incredible story. How you chose this insignificant town and an insignificant girl, and you did incredibly mighty things because of her willingness to surrender. God, may we be so bold as Mary to say that I know that whatever you have for me may not always mean comfortability, but when I lean forward and trust in your plan and your grace, that you will remove my fear and replace it with a peace that passes even my own understanding. We love you, God, and we praise you. Thank you for this amazing day. Thank you for this church and the continued growth that we get to experience and see. Help us to be brave as we move forward to help more and more people come to know the amazing love that you have for us. We say these things in your mighty name, Jesus. Amen.
We hope you enjoyed today's message. If you found this sermon meaningful, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more people and spread the word. Stay connected with us throughout the week by following us on social media at Washington Heights Church on Facebook and Instagram, and by visiting our website at whc.faith. For more information and additional resources, check out the podcast description below. Thank you for joining us. See you next week.